if you don't know what excellence looks like, you'll always get average or less out of AI. If you're a mediocre player, you will just be a faster, mediocre player. It will not make you better.
Welcome to the Expert in You podcast, the show where we have real conversations with established founders, firm owners, and B2B experts selling their expertise as services. We talk about what's happening now inside experienced businesses where positioning, influence, and growth directly affect opportunities and contracts. I'm Carden. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. I'm your host, Carden, and my guest today is awesome. I'm so excited to have him on. I have John Munsell on with me today. Hey John, welcome to the show.
Hey Ann, thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here. Looking forward to talking.
This is going to be a fun conversation. We're going to talk about AI, but very different from maybe some of the past people that I've had on talking about AI. But just to give a quick introduction for John, John is the CEO and co-founder of Bizzuka Inc. And he started out with web development, then he shifted into digital marketing, and now he is a powerhouse with AI and with AI mastery for organizations and teams. So recently had a book, I think, come out in 2025 called Ingrain AI. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit too. So John, I'm just super excited to have you here today.
Perfect. Well, looking forward to it.
So going from web development to digital marketing and now into AI, and you have multiple AI programs actually, but talking about AI mastery. So let's just get right to it. What mistake is someone making right now with AI when it comes to organizations, corporations, big companies, enterprises? What is going on out there?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of them have been, somewhat misled, right? When you start talking about AI, they immediately think, these really huge, what I call vertical applications that solve one big problem, and they think it's going to really move the needle, and they will, but it also takes a tremendous amount of time and a tremendous amount of money to build those applications. So like I talked to a significantly sized company just Monday, and they had dropped $400,000 over 9 months on an application. And the CEO finally said, okay, cut. We're not going to do this anymore because it wasn't getting anywhere. And what happened is he came to the same conclusion that most of the companies that come to us have come to. And that is, we don't have the density of knowledge in the organization to make these vertical applications successful. Right. And so we need to be more broad in our AI application rather than narrow, meaning we need to train all of our people how to use AI, and then they'll have a little bit more expertise when it comes to building these things. Now, the problem with that is that they don't have a way to measure that. Right. So they just will simply say, okay, we're going to give people access. And then after a while, they'll know what they're doing. And that's really not the right way to do it. So that's where we come in. They usually call us and say, all right, we definitely are not going about this the right way. And you had mentioned earlier, or we talk about AI mastery. So we have divided it into 10 levels of AI mastery. The first level is the one that pretty much everybody operates at, and that's where AI becomes a glorified search engine. The top level is where you're managing AI agents and people who are managing AI agents. That's a long way off for most companies, because you can imagine, as you increase in the level of mastery, the tools that you access become a little bit more complicated. And you start touching systems in the organization that require more governance and more security. So those three things have to go together: that your level of mastery, the complexity of the AI architecture underneath you that you're accessing, and the level of governance overseeing that process. So that's what we put together for somebody's making sure all that works harmoniously. That's how you set up AI governance.
I love it. I've been hearing a lot of stories about organizations that have cut a lot of their employees and their team and their staff. And I'm sure some of that is going to happen. But I also think we're going to see a shift in the market where people were doing other jobs and now they have to kind of become AI engineers or master AI. It's still being run by people. I would love to get your take on that.
So, I mean, look, I think everybody's afraid of AI for a number of reasons. They're afraid of it taking jobs, and they're afraid of it taking their job, and they're afraid of it taking over the world. And all of those are probably somewhat justified. But the real thing is, how fast is all this going to happen? Mm-hmm. And the way I have been looking at it, managing AI is not too dissimilar than managing people. When you onboard an AI system, you have to think of it as onboarding an individual. If you don't give that AI enough context, enough information, it's going to flop.
It has to be trained.
Yeah, you got to train. You got to, and look, I'm not talking about training an AI model. I'm just talking about taking a ChatGPT or Claude or something like that and giving it more context about you, your job, this specific task it's supposed to accomplish, what it needs to know about your company, your products, your services. You have to get all that in there. And the cool thing is, unlike dealing with one person who might have to take on a number of responsibilities, you can create little AI, I don't know what you want to call them, applications or assistants, but you can create these little things that take on very narrow tasks for you, like writing emails, like following up with your board reports, like creating spreadsheets out of expense reports. I mean, there's so many different little applications that you can do. But I think a lot of people think that AI is clairvoyant. I think that's the problem. But when you learn how to use it, then you start to realize, okay, I need to reimagine my entire workday. I need to reimagine my workflows. And that movement for people is difficult because we all are kind of stuck in our own methodical ways. We have finally maybe mastered our job to where we know what we're doing and nobody has to second guess us. But then along comes this AI thing, and it can actually make you better and faster at your job. But you have to kind of think differently.
Right.
And I'm in the process of that myself because I'm one of those guys who's kind of a creative visionary type, and I'm always thinking of things. But by the same token, I'm looking at my files, and they're a chocolate mess. I have some structure to them, but I've got versioning and over versioning, and at some point I have to go in there and clean it up. Well, turns out AI is pretty good at that.
Right.
So
I think it is good for some of those things for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that I am seeing, like I use AI in my own business for myself. And I even use it with my clients, but there's one thing that has kept emerging for me and so now to me, it's kind of crushed a bit of the myth of AI is going to take everything over. Two things have really come up. One is if you are not a real subject matter expert at what you do, AI is not going to help you do that.
Right.
It's still very surface level. So a lot of times, if I didn't know what I was doing, I could spend weeks or months, like it's not faster because it's just not, it doesn't have the depth of knowledge and experience that I have 40 plus years. It's just not there yet. Maybe it will be at some point, but it doesn't have the hundreds of clients I've worked with, the 6 businesses I've built and everything I went through with those and everything that I do now. It doesn't have all of that in there, nor could I really ever prompt it for that. I mean, in reality, I couldn't take 40 years of knowledge out of my head and put it into AI and expect it to have that same level. And so the first thing I see is that you do still have to have subject matter experts to really be able to get the value from AI. And that's what you're talking about, going in and training people to be able to use it more effectively, more efficiently within an organization, not necessarily replacing people. The other thing that I have seen, though, is that the more depth you have as an employee or as someone running a business, and the more depth you have for what you do, the more levels or layers you have to what you do with clients, for example, it's going to be very hard for that to be replaced with AI. So I would love to get your take on that. And if you agree with that, disagree. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. It's like I always tell people, if you don't know what excellence looks like, you'll always get average or less out of AI. If you're a mediocre player, you will just be a faster, mediocre player. It will not make you better. But like you point out, if you have specific domain expertise and you've kept your job long enough to where people trust you, then you know what you're doing. The key is, how do you drive that out of AI? Because AI will make you much, much faster.
Sure.
If you let it get you there. Now, what you have to remember is what I'm trying to do is build systems and prompts that will get me 85 to 90% there in a minute or two. I take it the other way, right? I take it across that finish line from 85 to 95, 100%. Most people don't want to do that. And so they get frustrated that AI didn't read their mind, didn't produce it at 100%.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you're no good. But they'll also spend hours trying to finesse AI, basically trying to beat AI into submission to get it across the finish line. It would take them 3 minutes to just go ahead and wrap it up. But that's one of the things that we have to teach people, because it's adopting AI is more about change management than it is about software adoption. And getting people across that barrier of we've always done it that way is the tricky part. But getting them to realize that they've got expertise and this gives them time to be even better, right? So the way I'm looking at it, and the companies that we're working with, what we're really focused on is helping them keep their employees. But when you introduce AI, if you know how to do it correctly, and you get people up to what we call level 6 out of those 10 levels, at level 6, they're producing tools, which is, probably the wrong word to use, but they're producing little applications and little assistants that make them recover somewhere between 3 and 12 hours a week of their own time. All right. So I can take processes that used to take us a week or two, and I can get them knocked out in 40 minutes. And I mean, literally, I'm shaving off that much time, 40 hours in 40 minutes. But I'm still working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's because what I'm doing is I'm producing more at a higher level, but I'm able to pull more work in, if that makes sense. So the way I always tell people is, look, AI, if you teach people how to use it the right way in their jobs, forget about the deep vertical applications, but think in terms of a horizontal use of it across the board. When they learn how to shave off 3, 10, 12 hours a week of their time, you've got a couple of choices. You could either tell them to just take some time off, or you could tell them to use that time to do something that they really like better, to really increase the value to the company, or you can sell into that capacity, right? So my favorite choices are the last two. I can get them to produce even better quality products, better service to our customers, better camaraderie in the organization, better everything, or I can sell into that capacity and start to scale beyond what I ever thought was possible because I've got that bandwidth. And that's really where I think the benefits are. And again, I think that's why most people our businesses are calling us now, is because they've started to realize, okay, we've gone about this the wrong way. Giving people access isn't adoption. We have to get them to a certain level of competency. It used to be, everybody's talking about AI literacy. Well, I don't know about you, but if I'm going into a Spanish speaking market, I don't want to hire somebody who's literate. I want to hire somebody who's fluent, or somebody who's like, you know, their level of mastery is so good you couldn't tell that they're not from Mexico or Argentina or whatever. Well, that's what it should be with AI too, right? I want them to get to that level where it's just second nature and they start to think about ping ponging an AI, but they also realize they are the ones who are the experts. AI is not the expert. AI is the accelerant. Makes sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense, because it's exactly what I believe about AI as well. And what used to take me just so much mental bandwidth to do with clients, I can now do much faster. But again, it's because I know what I'm doing, right? It's not it's not just handing me everything. Right. It's speeding the process, because I don't have to sit there and start from nothing or start from scratch and then build on it. So I do think a lot of people are afraid of AI. I know one of the things you had talked about is a lot in the consulting and the advisory space, coaching space. You have said that a lot of that is being replaced, or you feel it's being replaced with AI. I would love to dive into that, because I know there are going to be a lot of coaches and consultants and people listening to this show. I think it kind of goes back, in my opinion, the more depth and experience you have, the less AI can replace you, because you're multi-layered as what the service is. But if you're a one-trick pony, you're going to get replaced fairly quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Think? Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, like, look, I use it all the time to review legal contracts. But what that does is it saves me legal fees, but it doesn't save me from hiring an attorney. I can get there a whole lot faster, but I still need an attorney to look over it, because the attorney's got years and years and years of experience of a lot of other things that I hadn't thought through. Same way with just about any aspect of the business. There's kind of like you, I've had a lot of experience, and I've seen a lot of things that AI hasn't seen. But what AI, this is the thing I think people need to understand, is that AI is educated on basically all knowledge since the beginning of communication, right? Since the beginning of the spoken word. So it doesn't know the difference between excellence and average.
Oh, true.
Right. And so it just knows frequency. And so it assumes frequency is the best thing. And, people are starting to recognize it in the copy they read. You recognize patterns. Heck, even pattern is starting to be an AI word that's over and over.
Yes.
Yeah. But when you see that, then your job would be to apply your domain expertise and fix that. Don't let it go, right? I mean, if you're overseeing a group of employees, your job is to not let average or below move forward. Your job is to coach that person up to a level of excellence that your company and your product demands, right? That your consumers demand. And it's the same way. Everybody has to be thinking about AI as, look, I'm the one who knows excellence. I'm going to push you further, but there is a point where you have to stop pushing, because you're starting to give back all the speed gains that you got when it got you there to that 90% level, Right. I mean, I've literally seen people spend 2 hours trying to finesse a series of prompts to get a document out, and you're like, man, all you had to do was change 8 paragraphs and
right.
Done, right?
Right. So when you go into work with organizations and you work with their teams to get them going to AI mastery, what is it? How do you work with them? How does all of that happen?
Great question. So we work with companies anywhere from, we've worked with some pretty small companies with 5 employees, but the majority of the clients that come to us have somewhere between 50 and 50,000 employees. Most are in the multiple hundreds of employees, and some 12, 20,000. if we talk about that mid-market, that company with, say, 100 to 10,000 employees, the first thing we want to do is create what we call an AI transformation plan. That is, all right, how many employees are using a computer for more than 30% of the day? Mm-hmm. And then what's it going to take to understand what level they're operating at now? And how much do we have to work to get them to a level 6? Mm-hmm. And then what percentage of them need to move on? Because as you move up in the levels of mastery, the percentage of employees that need to go there gets smaller. Right. You don't need everybody operating at level 8. So we create a transformation plan, and that is a timeline associated with specific measurables. Mm-hmm. In other words, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to get there. Here's when we know when we've gotten there, and here's how much time we're going to do it in, right? So we create the transformation plan. And the next step is we have an executive alignment workshop where we bring in the executive team and we have everybody understand the plan and they all buy into the plan. But the more important thing is we have the executive team actually use AI with specific end goals in mind in that workshop where they can see with their own 10 fingers how it can change things without, looking at it like, okay, this thing is going to create some sort of predictive failure index for us for how fast a printing machine is going to go offline. We're not going to do that, but we're going to just teach them how to use stuff at their own desk. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we set up AI governance, and AI governance is a critical function. Most people think of AI governance as a policy document. Don't put this into AI. Right. That's
M dashes.
No M dashes. Right. God forbid. No. So that's not what AI governance is. AI governance has to oversee the safety and security and the ethics of AI as you put it across the board. It has to oversee who gets access to what systems. It has to oversee what AI gets access to what systems. It has to oversee training of everybody in the organization, and it has to be able to measure where that training went. In other words, what we don't want is somebody passing a quiz at the end of training, and that counts as productivity. We need to do a baseline measurement of specific tasks that they're working on. We need to see where they are in terms of their mastery. We need to test that they've actually achieved that mastery, not that they've passed a quiz. But then we want to go back and say, okay, as a byproduct of moving from, say, level 2 to level 4, you should have produced these artifacts. And those artifacts should have shaved off 2 or 3 hours a week of your time. And we wouldn't know that unless we had started with a baseline for that task and finished with one. And so now you've got measurables that say, okay, this is not only worth the investment, we're getting an ROI on the investment, and the employee is happy. And when employees go from level to level, they produce something on their own that saves them time and makes their job easier. And that gives them a sense of accomplishment, a little dopamine hit. And then they realize, oh, shoot, there's more, right? There's another level I can climb. And when I do that, I'll get even more time back. I'll be able to do more things that I'm better at, that I like to do, right? That's what governance is. So we help them establish governance. And then after we get the governance established, we run them through a cybersecurity exercise. And what that is it emulates an AI agent gone rogue or something going wrong with AI, or it could even be a breach of some sort. And, you got a whole lot of people playing this game and a lot of people watching. And all of a sudden they realize what's at stake. Right? When something really goes wrong, they realize, ooh, I got to bring in the CFO. Ooh, I got to bring in HR. I got to bring in PR. I got to manage all these things. We got to bring in IT. This is squirting out the other side after we try to fix this. It's about a 90-minute exercise. But when you're finished, you realize, okay, let's go back to governance and let's tighten up a few areas. We need to bring in some other people to report to some. So it's a complicated process. But
it sounds so interesting. Actually fun. It sounds fun.
It's very fun. Yeah. But after that, then we start training everybody because now we have the top level involved. Everybody understands what we're doing. They understand the stakes that are involved. They understand all the moving parts. And now we start putting people through training. And our training is LMS based. It's on a learning management system, right? So you can take it at your own pace. But then we offer live office hours as well. So a couple times a week, they can come live on Zoom, bring their problems and their questions, and then we help them think through it. And so everybody has to build a tool as they go through the training. And that's what we help them think through. Which, ironically enough, Anne, the thing that's the hardest for people going through the training is figuring out what they're going to build at the front end. Because they're like, because they don't know what to think, Chris. Right. They don't know enough.
Right.
And so we've actually built tools that help them think through their job, that help them identify something they can build. And it's been an interesting process. So that's it. And then after that, we have a lot of engagement that keeps everybody going because, this stuff moves so fast. It seems like every other week there's a new model being released.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And let me know how you're keeping up. How long do you what's an engagement look like? How long? So you have the workshop. Is that a one-day workshop? Is that multiple days? Yeah. Like what's the timeline there?
So the workshops are typically 4 hours in person, where we'll get anywhere from, it could be anywhere from 5 to 35 people in a room. Okay. And the more people in the room, the more we bring in support on our end, because we want to make sure the student teacher ratio, if you will, is good. But if it's a smaller company, then we just have a meeting with their executive team and we start working with them to put people through the training, because to them, governance is two people, Right. So we don't have to have a whole lot of oversight like you would if you had thousands of people. So in that case, we would do a 90-minute workshop for them. So that's really it. And we work with Tulane University right now. I think we've had 4 workshops with them so far.
And then how long on the back end? So when you're working, with people at these different levels, and then you're going to have probably a team that gets to that level 8, 9, 10. What's sort of the engagement size or time frame that you are going to work like with a bigger organization? What does that look like?
So let's say a medium organization, you're talking about 6 months to a year. A larger organization, it's going to be somewhere between 18 and 36 months.
Okay.
It just depends on how aggressively they want to pursue the training. But most of our engagements are, let's say, in the 2-year range.
I love it. So we've talked a lot about what you do and how you help organizations and enterprises. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about how did you even get into this and how did you become really such a master at this in such a short amount of time? Maybe you've been using AI for years. Most people have not. What did that kind of look like for you?
Well, I'll give you 1,000-mile-an-hour tour of the
make it AI speed worthy. Yes.
AI speed, yeah. So I spent 15 years in financial services, and then the web came out in '97. And for our internal team, I built an intranet, and I thought, this is where the future is. This is so much faster and more efficient. And so I ejected financial services and started a software development company. And I'd also had a bit of a marketing head because I developed some software that we sold to banks throughout the country. And I had to learn direct mail advertising. That was before email and anything.
I remember those days.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And so then I started this company to build web applications. And then, of course, the mobile stuff came out. So we had to build mobile applications. And then we were building websites. And then we gradually grew into a digital marketing agency. And then all my kids started to graduate from college. And my wife and I were like, it'd be neat if we were a little bit more mobile. So I sold off the digital marketing side of the company with the idea that I would become a fractional CMO and just be really flexible with my time. And so I spent a year working with CEOs to just understand what problems they wanted solved. Well, when you go from a high of 40 employees to now a low of 2.5, you have to use AI to do stuff, right? And back then, it was Copy AI and Jarvis, which is now Jasper. But
I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and they would just talk in circles, but it would get you 40 to 50% there, right? Mm-hmm. And then you'd have to work at it. And so I noticed that people were really interested in how I was using it, and I was kind of yawning at it. I was like, it's just throwing words on the page, and I got to work the heck out of it. But it's faster than me trying to hire a copywriter and wait 3 weeks for a draft to come back from a copywriter. Well, lo and behold, ChatGPT 3.5 becomes accessible to the public. And that's when I was like, oh, now they've taken the training wheels off. You can actually manipulate this to do stuff. And so I started to realize, okay, well, you can't get it to do what you want it to do unless you give it very specific structure and context. And so I built a process for that. And these people that I was coaching every Friday, they were like, how are you doing that? And so I realized, oh, that's the problem the market wants solved. It isn't marketing. It's this whole AI thing. Well, I mean, I was using it 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I got pretty good at it. And then people were like, okay, you should really be teaching this. So I started to teach this framework that I call scalable prompt engineering. And then I realized people weren't quite grasping the concept of it. And so I developed something called the AI strategy canvas that gave them a visual of the context that needed to be provided to AI. And at that point, the lights all clicked for everybody. Yeah. And then the provost of LSU heard what I was doing, and he came over here and then asked me to teach at LSU. And I was like, I just don't want to be a professor. And right. He looked at my transcripts. He wouldn't have come all the way over here, but I was not the best student at LSU. But anyway, at that point, I realized, okay, this is a whole lot more fun than I ever thought it would be. And it's where the world is headed. And so I've been working 7 days a week, 14 plus hours a day, nonstop. I see my wife for lunch and dinner, it seems like.
No. I thought AI was supposed to help you be faster, John.
Oh, yeah. But, that's the dream, right? I mean, here's the thing. I feel like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to make a difference. And whether it's your company or somebody else's company, it's a literally once in a lifetime opportunity. And it's moving so fast. I mean, that's why I left financial services to jump on the web, because I thought, oh, here's one of those once in a lifetime things. Well, here we are again, but this thing is moving 10 times faster than the web.
It's perfect for ADHD people, right?
Thank Entrepreneurs. You for that. Yeah. That's right. Which is why my wife says, that's just how he's wired. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, it's true. But that's it. And so I had really no choice but to get really good at it, because it's what I needed to do just to build a company, right? Right. And then now it's at that point where I really got to scale it faster. And I've been working with some fairly large companies, but I need to figure out how to scale this thing much, much faster. Mm-hmm. And so I don't see myself slowing down anytime soon.
And outrun you, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's so great to see how you've just embraced this. And I want to just point out a couple of things here for anyone listening. Number one, pivot. You shifted, you pivoted, you saw the opportunity in the market. You took advantage of that opportunity, and you went all in. And you're talking about the hours that you're working. And I think so many people, John, they don't make shifts or pivots because they realize the work that's going to have to go into it. But the alternative is you're going to be out of business, or what you're doing is no longer relevant, right? So we've all had to do that. I've shifted. I've had to do things differently as well. And the people that are willing to do that, you've been in business about as long as I have. So this is not our first rodeo, right? To have to make a pivot or a shift in the market. But so many people just don't realize what that takes and the amount of effort and work that takes to get that back into gear, so to speak, once you make that shift. So I wanted to point that out because that's the reality, everyone. Anytime you are, even if, I help people move up market, sometimes they're like, oh, well, then I have to get rid of the lead magnet that I put all this time and effort into. I'm like, well, you're, $500,000 plus client contracts don't care about that lead magnet, like it's not relevant. And so many people don't take steps to move to that next level because they don't want to put in the effort or do the work. So, I had to point that out. That's just in my opinion.
It's a really valid point. I would probably take it a couple of steps further. All right. So as a solopreneur, right, having sold off the majority of the company, basically the entire client portfolio and starting all over again, I became once again a solopreneur.
Right.
As a solopreneur, you have to use AI for everything. Right. So I had to learn it for literally everything, not just writing blog posts, but, working on the financial statements, creating spreadsheets, doing expense reports. I mean, I could go on and on. If you've already got an active company, here's what I could tell you. If you leave your employees to their own devices to figure AI out for themselves, it will take them 19 to 24 months to get to level 6, where the maximum productivity ROI is. All right. 19 to 24 months. On the other end, if you put them through the appropriate training that moves them up level by level, it'll take 2 to 3 months, which is almost a 2-year head start, where you've got 2 full years of massive productivity gains. But most people aren't making that kind of investment in training, and instead they'll complain that AI isn't all it's cracked up to be. Well, of course it's not. If you're handing somebody the engine of a car and nobody's told them you got to put wheels on it, you got to put a chassis on it, right? And they're just sitting the engine over here and going, this thing isn't doing anything. So we got to get people to realize that. It's much easier if the accountant can learn it from an accounting's perspective, right? A PR person can learn from PR. HR can learn from HR. As a solopreneur, I had to learn across all of that. That's why I had to work so many hours and continue to. But an individual should not be afraid of it because they can focus. And man, that's like, I don't know about you. Well, I don't know, maybe you aren't as old as I am, but when I was a kid, we would take the magnifying glass and we would focus the sun's rays and burn holes in paper. Right?
Oh, we did that, or lit firecrackers.
Well, we would burn ants.
Oh gosh,
but that's really what you got to do. Like if I'm an accountant, man, I'm going to focus the energy of AI on those specific tasks, right? And you give everybody that tool, and man, the power is incredible.
You're kind of bringing up something as you're talking about this, where I would, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but where I maybe see the direction going is not replacing people as much as it is maybe there won't be as many positions available for new hire. But what you're talking about, that person, that HR person is still going to need to be an HR person. They're just finding different ways to do their job. But they're still going to be the expert at their job and in the ways that they have created using AI. Where I see it going away is kind of what we were talking, or where I see AI replacing is kind of what we were talking about. You're brought in for a specific task. We're seeing a lot of consultants, right? They were good at this one thing. They could do this one thing. And I do think that those people are going to be replaced. But what is your thought around that? So,
man, I have a million thoughts around it. I think the truth is everything really remains to be seen. But here's my gut. And again, I'm willing to be totally wrong. But I'm just looking at how I'm using it and how my team is using it. All right. I feel like that the majority of businesses, the bigger businesses, I think, are going to have fewer employees. Mm-hmm. And I think the smaller businesses are going to have more. I think there's going to be this shift in the marketplace because you're already seeing the bigger employers lay off people, and they're starting to hire some of them back, granted. But they're getting rid of a lot of software engineers and things like that. Mm-hmm. Well, a smaller company doesn't have the expertise to be an engineer at software development. Okay, and I'm just going to pick this as an example. So you can go vibe code to your heart's content and build an application. But when you want to try to deploy that inside of your own server system and do that securely, you're going to need some help, right? So you're going to need some sort of an engineer. Well, several thousand just got laid off from Microsoft. All right. So you can find some quality people now. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're going to see some level of democratization of the software engineering space. I think a lot of people are going to have to think differently. We're all wired differently. Not everybody's wired to be an innovator. Not everybody is wired to be an administrator, a person who puts rules together. Not everybody is wired to be a connector, somebody who likes to get teams together and build consensus. And not everybody is going to be a doer, somebody who likes to just produce, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a little bit of that in them.
Right.
We do is we actually run tests on people to determine whether they're primarily a doer, an administrator, an innovator, or a connector. And then we want to create team chemistry by putting the right groups together to solve specific problems. That really changes how you actually implement AI. And so when you do that, then I think you're going to see chemistry change in companies. I do think you're going to see smaller companies become somewhat larger and larger companies become somewhat smaller. That's kind of my feeling. So I know that there's going to be layoffs, but I also know that people will need to learn how to use AI if they want to be employed, or else, they can do any of the other jobs that are going to be required that don't necessarily use a whole lot of AI, like being an electrician, being a plumber, being a carpenter, those kinds of things. Interestingly enough, though, if you're an electrician, AI is coming into play. Same with a plumber. You can take a picture of something and then quickly decide where the inventory is to fix this particular item and have it on your truck before you head out. I mean, there's a lot of AI there, but it still requires somebody to get underneath there and go, I know what you're doing.
Have to do the work. Yeah. No, that's interesting. I love hearing your insights on that. I also do think that AI, if people do open their mind, it actually is going to open up opportunities for people to start their own businesses where maybe they couldn't before or didn't see a way to do it before. We've already seen, even if you just think about a lot of the platforms and things that have come out, even since ChatGPT kind of became mainstream for everybody, there's so many platforms that have emerged and so many tools and different things that people can use. And somebody built those, right? Somebody started a business and now is making a lot of money selling those tools and those resources. So it is always a shift. It's just different. It's going to be different jobs, different ways of thinking, different ways of doing things. But I always say there's opportunity in everything if you look for it and just see things differently. Where I think people get stuck is they get stuck in their old thinking.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know inertia hits everybody. But in this case, I would rather have the inertia of movement than the inertia of staying still. And I would rather see our employees get really excited about what they're doing because they're able to learn something completely different, new, and it enhances their skill set. And they're also in control of it, right? So that's why I know everybody talks about human in the loop. I'm not a fan of that phrase because I feel like it's demeaning to people. I would rather use something like human at the helm And I'm almost kind of getting sick of the word human, frankly, because
No, I agree.
I feel like we're people, I mean, yeah, we're humans, but the more we get down that path, I almost feel like it's humans and machines. And
it does start to feel like that. Yes.
Well, I mean, look, I think, I don't know, I'm probably crazy on this, but I really feel like using the word human is starting to desensitize us to what's going on with AI, because we don't want to see ourselves as that human is that other person. But I don't know about you, but I don't populate my employee ranks with humans. I populate them with people, friends, teams.
That's right.
My kids haven't come over ever in their life and say, "Dad, I'm going to go outside and play football with the humans next door."
The humans. That's true.
Right. So, I mean, that's what I feel like. Man, look, we're people. We have feelings. We have perspectives. We have experiences that AI will never have in a unique sense. It'll experience everybody else's experience that has been put it on paper or something. But that's where I think I'm afraid that people are too afraid.
Yeah.
And they're that's the other thing I think they also have a tendency to do, because AI is so fast and because it's wired to be a bit of a sycophant. I think people will go, "Oh, wow, it's so much smarter than me." Therefore, they yield their expertise to AI rather than drive their expertise into AI, right? Yeah. And that's I think the bigger danger is having people feel inferior just because something is faster and has access to more knowledge. I feel like, hey man, this is great for me because I don't have to hold as much here. I can actually have that machine kind of hold it. But I'm looking at it, I'm like today I just spent an hour working on a very long document I'm producing to explain 12 different terms in the AI space that everybody gets confused. And it would give me this stuff. I'm like, no, man, that's not right. People aren't going to understand it that way. Let's keep going. And then I'll just rewrite it and like, this is what it is. And of course, and it's sycophant.
And then AI agrees with you. Yes. Way to go, John.
Yeah. Oh, you're brilliant. I'm like, yes, thank you.
That's the one thing. Hey, if you want to be lifted up, just ask AI a question about.
Just ask AI how great you are. Right.
That's right. So good.
I actually have several projects that I call thought partners, and in it, I have it challenge me and I have it push back. That's part of the system instructions. Yeah, and I'm like, quit agreeing with everything.
Stop appeasing me. Just
right.
Yes, I tell.
We're going to work through this together. That's another key part of a system instruction is like, you and I are going to work through this together. So instantly, it puts the AI in a mindset of, all right, we're a team. And we're gonna get there together.
There's a good prompt for everyone right there. So, how are you getting your clients? So I like to always let people see, like, what are you doing in your business? So you're doing these great things right now with enterprises, organizations. How are you getting your clients?
Okay, the God's honest truth is they're coming to us, and I know that I don't think that will last forever. And I'm really trying to do more outbound.
But how are they finding out about you? You're doing something outbound to get inbound results.
Funny you should ask, because I'm getting all of my leads from being on podcasts. Right?
It's one of my number one drivers.
Oh, it is our number one, right? So when I decided to write the book, one of the things I did was I got on podcasts, and then I would tell people, look, if you want to get on the waiting list for the book when I publish it, I'll give you a copy of it for free, within the first 45 days of it being published. And so I got a whole lot of people get on the waiting list. And then after it was published, I would get leads from Amazon, people reading the book and sharing the book and all that stuff. And then I got too busy with business, so I didn't do any more podcast appearances. And so the lead flow went down. And so I was like, all right. And so I got my team to get me on more podcasts. So, and all of a sudden the lead flow goes back up. But it's all just a matter of exposure. And I can tell you, one of the things that we were really good at in the digital marketing side was learning how to write copy on our website, blog posts on our website, so that we answered the questions that our buyers were asking at certain stages in the buyer cycle. And that has now gotten us to be a cited authority on just about every LLM. So I'm looking at now of the traffic that comes into our website, and it used to be somewhere in the range of 90% knew our URL for some reason, and 10% would come from Google. Now it's like 30% comes from Google, 15% comes from AI, and the rest are direct referrals, which is a huge shift. I mean, it's a huge shift. Yeah. And literally half of the things that are coming from search are coming from AI, which is really, really interesting. We're being cited as a bunch of, I guess, as an authority in certain aspects of it.
So, no, that's great to know. So what is going to be, other than guesting on podcasts, do you have a plan in place for the outbound marketing that you're going to be doing?
Yeah. So here's, and maybe you can help me massage this idea, Ann. So what we're doing now is we're using AI to do more specific, targeted, what I call account-based marketing. Mm-hmm. So I've developed a prompt together with another friend of mine in the UK that provides what we call a 3-lens analysis on a market. So I can pick a region and I can do this 3-lens analysis using an AI agent. And the 3 lenses have to do with regulatory pressure and a couple other things. And it'll surface all of these companies that have essentially got pressures that make AI an obvious either answer to the pressure or needs to somehow be involved in whatever that signal is. And then we have another analysis that pairs those that surfaced with what we would call buying signals. And the buying signals would be they hired somebody who oversees AI. They made some sort of an AI announcement, all these things. So we have an agent that will scour a market once a week and surface these prospects. And when we find that, then we'll enrich that data with hopefully the right contact information, because, a lot of times those databases are not so good.
Right.
And then we'll do what I call a snail mail call email campaign. So we'll send them a copy of the book, and we'll call, and we'll send another email, and then we'll call again. And that's kind of our strategy to get in front of the right people. But we're trying as much as possible, if you're familiar with the buyer's journey, we're trying to get people at a certain stage in the buyer's journey, and we're trying to give them information rather than say, hey, we sell this, you want to buy one.
Right. And that's an important fact too, because a lot of times people are trying to convince people they need this, and it's so much easier to go after people that already know they need that.
Yeah. Right.
And maybe they just haven't seen you before. They don't know about you. And that's a very different marketing strategy than trying to get people and convince them. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting about this 3-lens analysis, is because there are things in here that a lot of companies aren't even aware of. And so we can actually send them something and they're like, are you aware this new legislation just passed and it's going to require you to do X, Y, and Z? Just thought you'd be interested. Whoever in your department needs to be aware of it. And then there are a couple others, but it allows us to be of service first before we say, hey, you want to buy one of these? Okay, how about one of these? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But that's the idea. It's how can we be of service first, and then have them go, okay, well, these guys know something. And then with any luck, it'll turn into a sales conversation.
So great. What's the greatest challenge you have right now that you're trying to work through?
Scale. So I think that the biggest issue that I'm having. Okay, so keep in mind, I've built a couple of businesses before. I've been through this before. I haven't been as successful with you. I wish I was as successful as you. But I've built a couple of businesses, and I know that I hit a certain threshold, and I know I need somebody who's been beyond the threshold that I've been to. And that's what I'm looking for right now. I know where my limit is, and I'm rapidly approaching that limit. I'm like, I know I don't want to go beyond that. I need somebody who knows that. And so I'm looking for an operator of our business who has been to that new level, because I think we can get to 30, 40, 50 million in revenue. But I need somebody who's been there, done that. And I don't care where they live or anything. But that's really, I think, our biggest challenge is we have the market. If we're here and there's this big wave coming, I used to think that we were kind of at the peak of that wave. It turns out that the wave is way over here and it's coming our way. And that's why I'm like, I need to hire somebody who can get there, because the market has now recognized that what we provide is what it needs. And there are several industries that are just ripe, and we need to be on top of it. So I know probably not the answer you were looking for, but
the thing is, you really seem ahead of the curve for what I'm seeing out there. I've had a lot of people on my podcast that have talked about AI, and they're doing things with AI, but not at the level that you are doing it. So to me, it looks like you are way ahead of most of the market and what people are doing with AI.
It seems that way. I know I've got a COO, and he keeps telling me that we're ahead of the market. And I guess it's because, in terms of that curve, I'm like at the bleeding edge, and I'm listening to all the people at the bleeding edge, and I'm thinking the rest of the world is there. And in terms of an adoption curve, they're so not.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not. So very cool. Well, John, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. People can get your book where?
Amazon. Yeah, it's just Ingrain AI. And hopefully the sequel would be coming out by the end of the year. There's so much that has advanced since then. So the book is a great foundation. It'll teach you how to scale AI in your organization. The next book shows all the things that we've learned from there and the new frameworks that we're putting out there.
Isn't it crazy? I feel like I'm almost to the point where I feel like I'm almost writing a book now. I could write almost a book every year to keep up, because everything changes. I wrote one in 2025, and now I'm like, I feel like even beyond that. Now I want to redo it. And it just, things are moving so fast. But the thing is, we're true entrepreneurs. And so that's what we see. And that's sort of our mindset about. But the rest of the world isn't really moving as fast as we think it is. It's just we're in that world that we see what's happening in the marketplace. But everybody's not keeping up at the same pace. And so, it takes several years to adopt things sometimes.
I think security also is going to slow things down, because I think AI is traveling way faster than security can keep up. And so, like I said, I'm talking to these bankers next week, and I'm like, man, there's no way I would let AI touch certain aspects of that bank.
Sure. Right. So good. Well, John, thank you so much for being my guest. This was a great conversation. I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it.
All right, everyone, go check John out. He's on LinkedIn. We will put all of his information in the show notes so you can reach out to him. If you know an enterprise, an organization, or even a small business that could use his services, make sure that you connect with him and reach out to him. Also, if you are an expert at what you do and you're looking to move up market, you're really ready, in your gut that you should be getting those really high-end contracts and clients, that you should be playing at a completely different level, but you just haven't quite mastered that yet, reach out to me. It's what I help you do, elevate your business so that you are playing at the top of your market, getting the best clients, the best opportunities, the biggest doors open to you, and the most revenue. So you can book a call with me at acarden.com, and let's have an elevation strategy conversation. Thank you again for being here. Make sure you subscribe to the show and share it. And until next time, God bless you and have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Although I share strategies, ideas, and success stories based on real experiences, results are never guaranteed. Every business is unique, and outcomes depend on individual effort, market conditions, and many other factors. By listening, you agree that I and my guests are not responsible for your results or actions based on the content shared. Thank you for tuning in today. If you're as excited as I am about scaling up your influence, business, and bank account, then I have just the thing for you. But first, make sure you subscribe to the show. Second, make sure you share it with someone you care about, because sharing is caring. And third, head on over to join me in my next free virtual exclusive workshop, where we'll explore proven strategies to boost your business and maximize your potential. Look, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're looking to take your business to the next level, my workshops are designed for you. So head on over to expertinyouworkshop.com to reserve your spot and get ready to transform your expertise into extraordinary success. I'm looking forward to seeing you there and helping you achieve incredible growth. Until next time, make sure you're always seeking the expert in you, and God bless. Have an amazing day.